recording started. And now I need to swing back over to Meetup. Header. Oh, okay. I got out of my thing here. Find my groups. Takes a minute. Simplify. All right. So today, Lori already told us a little bit about her, but I want to talk about her actual presentation. So Lori Dubois will discuss with us personal versus professional info on your social media, an approach to deciding what's okay to share on your platforms and why it matters. Social media is a powerful way to connect and build relationships, but how do you decide what personal information belongs on platforms like LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, or others? Should you keep your business presence strictly professional? How about sharing stories about your family, pets, hobbies, everyday life? Does it matter? Does your industry matter in deciding? Are there any real rules? So, in this engaging session, Lori will help you develop guidelines for sharing your story in a way that feels authentic and appropriate for you. She'll explore how understanding your ideal audience helps shape what you choose to share, and will introduce her 4 R's of storytelling framework for creating content that feels both relevant and genuine. And you will leave with a clearer understanding of how to balance your personal and professional content while staying true to your voice and your brand. Lori is a storyteller, word alchemist. I love that. And branding expert who has helped people craft and share meaningful stories for more than 35 years. She has a background, as she mentioned, in branding and marketing communication that's taught her that words matter and how they are delivered matters just as much, if not probably more. And she has, after owning her own marketing company, Marketing Troubadour, for 15 years now, recently she founded, what, 2, 3 years ago, right? Sacred Story Stones. And it really, ultimately, I'm going to skip this part a little bit. The most important stories are the ones we tell ourselves. Through her work, she encourages people to embrace their unique stories, communicate authentically, and recognize that they are already enough. Nice way to tie all that up. Okay, now what I'm going to do is get you set up for your on speaker. Okay, so take it away, Lori Dubois.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for everyone for being here. Let me pull this up. Are you seeing silence my phone? That would be good. Are you seeing my presentation?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. So I'm going to cue it up. This is a new presentation, and Joyce and I talked recently because I was noticing, and she was too, like in all these meetings, it seems like people tend to ask some of the same questions, right? So it's like, we should talk about this. So, okay. Um, I might talk kind of fast. I have a lot to cover, and I tend to kind of rabbit hole, so I'm going to try not to do that, and hopefully we'll have some time for questions. So, as Joyce mentioned, we're talking about, personal versus professional. And I can't tell you the number of times I've been asked that question. Is it okay to put something personal on my business page, or, what's okay or what's not okay? And it's changing. And I know you guys all realize that too. It has changed a lot, I think, over the years. And I think 10 years ago, we'll just pick that point in time. 10 years ago, I think there were more hard and fast rules of this is the stuff you post on LinkedIn and this is the stuff you post on Facebook. And I think as time goes by, all these social media platforms are kind of getting enmeshed. And I think there's a reason for that. So we're going to talk about some of that. And so this is what I want to talk about today. Do you have a timer going, Joyce, or no? It's okay if we don't. I'll just watch the time. But I want
And
to talk
Lori,
just
just so
first.
you know, we're seeing your note side instead of the
Oh,
slides.
okay. Thanks. Let me go
I don't
back.
know. I don't see your notes
Oh, I
now.
can see
Oh,
your
you
note. I can
didn't?
see the notes. The
Let's see.
Then I
about
did.
Slideshow from beginning. Do you see the notes still?
yeah. So just go right above your presentation where it says display settings, and then just switch
Oh,
your screens around because we're
Better?
seeing the presenter view. There you go.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
yeah. Good
Thank you.
catch, Mir.
Thank you for saying that. Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about like why me? Like why am I talking about this? What makes me think that anyone needs to listen to what I have to say about this and why this topic, which I just told you that, this question gets asked a lot. That's why this topic. But we're going to talk about first of all, your brand briefly, like who are you? And then we're going to talk about your audience. Who are your audience? So, like, who are you? Who are they? And then we're going to hit on storytelling because I think this is really the foundation that guides you in what you should post and why. Then we're going to talk about some guidelines so that you can make your own approach because I am not going to give you rules that say, don't ever post personal stuff if you're this kind of person because it's not that clear cut. So, and then we'll just kind of wrap up with you have to actually try it and do the thing, right? And then test it to see what works. So, why me? Why this? I have spent like 40 years in marketing communications, and I notice, especially with social media, that people will learn a technology or they will learn a platform or they will learn a system, but they never really learn the foundations of marketing and branding, which should be what you're basing everything on. So you can learn what, quote, the rules of Instagram are, as you should learn about the platforms that you're using. But if you skip over some of the foundations, it's just like a house foundation, right? If you can't tie it back to something that's strong, then it's not going to work as well for you. And there's so many variables in marketing and social media and branding. There's so many variables that the more you can narrow them down, the better you will be. And as I said, why this? It's because people ask, and someone asked just a couple months ago, they actually asked this question straight out. Is it okay to post personal stuff on my business page? Um, and unfortunately, we could end this in 2 minutes and I could just say it depends, right? Because that's kind of the answer. Everybody wants a silver bullet, but it really does depend on who you are, what your business is, what your mission is, who your people are. And we're going to go into some of that stuff here. Um, So, first of all, and if you want, I can't see the chat right now, but Joyce, you could, call out some of the things if anyone has anything else. Why are you even using social media? So it's kind of like, most people, and I would say talking from a business standpoint, a solopreneur or entrepreneur standpoint, you want more visibility. I think that's why a lot of us are on social media. You want connection, you want to build connection with people, you want to generate leads, you want to prove your credibility. And then the last kind of thing that's a catch-all is because everybody else is. I mean, so many people do it just because we feel like we have to, right? If I'm not on social media, somehow I'm going to miss something. So if there's any other reasons you're using social media, you might want to like pop those into the chat, um, just so that we're kind of all on the same page. And if anybody does, Joyce, you can shout it out. So if we're on social media, which I'm assuming we all are because we're here today, right? We're going to touch a little bit on your brand. So now we're going to talk about you and your why. So, in my humble opinion, I think that your why drives everything. So, you were talking your mission, your values, your message, your visual identity, and your reputation. Those are all things that make up your brand. And I have a thing called a branding pie, and it covers all these things. Your brand is not just your logo, it includes your core messaging. It does include what you look like, but a lot of what's in there are values and mission information. And it's like why you're doing this thing in the first place. And the reason that I've included this is because when it comes to posting on social media, if you're not clear about your why or your brand, and if you're not letting that drive your decisions, then you're more likely to post just random things. I always call them random acts of marketing, right? Where you just post something because you saw it and it was cute or it was informational or it pissed you off or well, who knows why, but you throw it on your post. So you need to be a little more strategic, I think, and always come back to your why. And so I think it's important too that we realize marketing and branding are not the same thing. They're very closely related. And the way I like to explain it is your brand is your story. Marketing is telling your story. So it's possible to do branding without any marketing, and it's also possible to do marketing without any branding. So if you're doing branding without any marketing, which a lot of us can be guilty of, what it looks like is I'm always working on my logo, I'm always working on messaging, I'm always trying to look perfect, I'm always trying to do all this stuff, but I never really push it out there. I don't let anybody really see it because it's not quite done yet, it's not perfect yet. So that's branding without marketing. Conversely, marketing without branding is you put stuff out there, but it is everything all over the place and there's no strategy behind it. So you're telling a story, but you might be telling 20 different stories on 20 different days and they don't look the same, they don't sound the same. So people would find it difficult to believe that every time they see it that it's really you. So that's, I think, is important to understand the difference and so that you actually know what your story is and that when you're posting on social media, you're marketing. Okay. So I think that you can use social media to share your brand, tell your story, and that is what you're doing is marketing. So we'll leave this idea of who you are. So you know who you are, right? So the other big piece of it, which is probably even bigger, is who are they? Who are you talking to? Who's your ideal client? And so all of marketing, including social media, includes as the key who is it that you want to attract? So you're not, if you're talking to everybody, you're talking to nobody. I think we all kind of realize that, right? So if you have an ideal client avatar, like an ICA, an ideal client profile, target market, they're all different words for the same thing, but understanding really who you're hoping to reach, you need to know what they care about. And that goes from, there's a whole other presentations and things about really nailing down your ideal client profile. But you're basically thinking about what do they care about? What are their demographics? And then going into the psychographics, like what are their values? Because I'm assuming you would probably prefer to work with people who share your values, right? So if you know what your core values are in your brand, and then you're thinking about the people you're talking to, hopefully you're saying things that will align with them so that they would be a good fit for you. So when you know who you're talking to, the next job that we have to do, which sometimes can be a tough job, is figure out where they're hanging out because there's no point in any kind of marketing message if you're going to the wrong places and hitting the wrong people. So the whole point of it is to try and figure out this group of people, this my ideal client, maybe her name is Sandy, and all these things about her, that's who I'm really targeting. Yes, you're going to pick up some other people, especially on social media, but knowing where they hang out sometimes can be difficult to do, but it's like a testing thing, right? You can read all the demographics and all the information about comparing YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and I have some information I'll share in a few minutes that's a little bit humorous about a slogan. I actually used ChatGPT to help me with a couple things, and one of them was, what's a simple way to explain these platforms compared to each other? And then once you know where they are, you have to figure out what's relevant to them because if they don't care about it, it doesn't matter. And so you want to resonate with people. That's the whole point of posting them. So we know who we are, we know who they are. So now we're going to talk about storytelling for a few minutes. So it's like, what's the big deal? I sometimes get a little annoyed because I feel like storytelling has become such a buzzword and everyone, hashtag storytelling, it's all over social media. And it's like nobody really explains what it is or why they're talking about it. So so we're going to talk about it for just a few minutes because I am this huge believer in the power of story. It's something that as a human being, we are hardwired to use story. It's this basic human instinct that allows us to connect with each other, relate to other people. that have things in common with us, create meaning in our lives, and also, which I think this is one of the most important, add context and make sense of our world. So when you think about all the things, you got the campfire here, and it's like, I mean, this has been going on for thousands of years of people sharing story in order to create meaning out of their lives. So when we think about that, I have this quote that says, your story answers the questions people have about you. It allows them to make sense of who you are and decide whether or not to connect with you. So having said this, if you were going to ask me right now, should I ever post personal things, this might give you a clue that maybe it's okay to do it sometimes if the conditions are right, which we're going to get to, because people do have questions about you. And especially if you're in a service related business, or even not, I'm in a product business right now, but it's like, people want to do business with people. They talk about the KLT, the know, like, trust factor, right? Even if they're not working directly with you, like as a coach or like Joyce's, consulting that she's doing on LinkedIn, it still doesn't matter. I think in this day and age, especially, we want to know the person behind the curtain, right? Because it tells us something about them and it does answer questions that we have without us having to ask those questions and then answer them, because some people will not tell you. Someone's not going to do an appointment with Mary or Kirby and then ask you something that feels too personal or too invasive, or I mean, they may ask what's your experience or what's your education or something like that. But if you're posting a lot of things on social media that allow people to kind of see who you really are, they're going to get those questions answered without having to ask them. And in case anybody is wondering, I always err on the side of it's okay to be a little bit polarizing. You are not trying to attract everybody. You are trying to attract the kind of people you want to work with that share the same values with you. So, I created this thing several years ago called the 4 R's of storytelling, because I obviously in the marketing world was so focused on the stories we tell other people, whereas now I'm focused more on the stories we tell ourselves. They're both very impactful, but I came up with this as a framework. So it's like the 4 R's of storytelling: relevance, resonance, relatability, and remember. So I put this in a little paragraph, kind of a little story that helps you remember it. If your story is relevant and resonates with people, they will relate to you and remember you. So it's kind of like if you hit those first 3 R's, chances are very high you're going to get that last one and they will remember you. And if you think about speakers at conferences or people you meet just at networking, all of those kinds of things, it's interesting when you really dig into why you remember a certain person. And I would be willing to bet some money that sometimes the reasons you remember them, not just because they tell a great story, but because that story reveals something about them that you resonate with. Right? So when people, here again, kind of bringing in the personal thing, when people talk about like, oh, I don't want to see what you had for lunch, or I don't want to see one more picture of your dog, or I don't want to see your kids crying at bedtime, or those kind of things. Sometimes those are the very thing that adds that little personal touch that lets us say, oh my God, my kid cries at bedtime too, right? Or some stories where they reveal something that it causes you to resonate with the story and relate to you. So there again, I don't think, if you haven't figured out by now, I don't think that personal stuff is necessarily bad. However, you need some kind of a context. So now we're going to move into actually what you should be posting, or what you, it's not really a should, it's if you're trying to give yourself the test of, ooh, is this okay to put on my profile? Hopefully these next few slides will actually help you to create your own guidelines to figure this out. So like I said, when it comes to someone asking me, is it okay to put personal stuff on my business account? My answer is going to be, it depends. Bump, bump, bump. There it ends. Nobody cares. It's like, I don't want to hear it depends. I want to hear more. So here's the more. Is it going to help you tell your story? If you post something that's personal, Is it going to relate to your story? Now, if you have difficulty figuring that out, ask a friend, put it in AI. That's something that I love to do with people is just sit and chat with them. And it's like sometimes they can't think of their own ties. Well, I'd like to post this, but I don't know how that relates to my business. There's always a way, you guys. Like if you could go out to maybe you went out to eat last night or last week, or you cooked a fantastic meal and you're not a food blogger, and then you think, okay, everyone complains about, I don't want to see what you ate for dinner, but you could post that if you feel like you could tie it back to your story. If you're a coach, you could talk about, trying something new, trying something difficult, sharing time with people where you can take time off work and do a hobby. There's lots of ways if you think about what you do in your business, what you do in your personal life. I'm guessing that most people's personal lives and business lives are not as different as we like to think that they are. Um, so, is it going to help you tell your story? Is it on brand? Is it going to resonate with people? And is it going to help you increase your know, like, and trust factor? Those are all questions you can actually ask yourself. And if you can't answer them, or if it's kind of like, well, there really is no point in this, I just enjoyed my lunch, you might not want to post it. Um, so here's kind of some more guidelines. We start with what is your industry? Because if you do your research, and I'm a big one for doing competitive research. You can use AI to help you too, if that's not something that you think is like fun, because they can do kind of collapse time, right? And like compare a lot of different competitors for you. But it's like if you look, like use Instagram, for example. If you look on Instagram, people that are doing certain industries are all kind of posting the same thing. And they're probably all downloading the same free download from the same social media expert that says, here's 5 viral hooks. So it's like, that's not necessarily bad. Sometimes if you enjoy that, you want to do what everyone else is doing because you're assuming that it's working, right? Your other option is you want to do something that's the opposite because you want people to remember you as being different. So you have to decide for yourself, do I go along or do I want to stand out? And I think that's kind of an initial decision that you have to make, and you probably need to test it a little bit so that you actually know. Because if you're that crazy, I don't know, LinkedIn tutor that, eats strawberry ice cream every Thursday at 5 o'clock or whatever, and you build this whole kind of quirky thing around what you do, people may really think that that's fun. And if it adds to what you do in your business, it could be very advantageous for you to do that. So it's not just like an extra, it's actually tied into your business. Um, if we're talking about putting personal information on a business account, I would say consider the breakdown. I'm not going to tell you the breakdown that I think that you should have because I think it depends on you and your business, your brand, your ideal client, all of those things. But you might want to just pick something and try it. And maybe you say, this is my business account. I'm going to put 70% of my posts are going to just be business, educational, inspirational, how-tos, testimonials, all those kinds of things, and allow myself 25 to 30% of personal posting that tie back to my business life, to my values. And so there's a breakdown, and I said 25 to 30 if you're 70 business, 25 personal, maybe your other 5% is actually like selling, or it could be 30%. But I do think it's kind of weird when you are putting 99% business post on a business page, and then all of a sudden you have this really weird, odd thing that feels very personal and people aren't used to it. I think sometimes that kind of shakes people up because I think people have expectations and they follow people because of something, right? So it's like if it is a coach or a consultant and they're always doing retreats and traveling and doing that kind of stuff, it is part of their business. It can feel personal, but if you're doing it as part of your business, I think it's absolutely okay. The other thing I think is it depends on what platform you're using. So this is not on the slide, but I was asking ChatGPT like how to kind of explain this simply, and I thought this was kind of funny. So whether or not you agree with it, and that this is another thing I think that's really morphing over time. So these are the slogans they made for these different platforms. So TikTok is entertain me and be real. YouTube is teach me something and let me get to know you. Facebook is show me your life and your relationships. Instagram is show me your lifestyle and personality. And
Hmm.
LinkedIn is show me your expertise. So I think that's pretty accurate. What do
Mhm.
you guys think? Do you agree?
I
Um,
would agree. Hey, Lori, really quick,
yeah,
can you go back to number two? Is that your ideal customer? What is the ICA?
ideal client avatar. So it's like the same thing.
Avatar. Okay.
Yeah, same thing as your ideal client profile. It's that person that you can visualize,
Right.
as
Thank you.
being the person
I
you
like
want.
what you just read from chat. That was great.
I thought that it was kind of humorous. And first, I had just looked up to see, obviously, what are the most used social platforms, who is the demographic. And this is what's interesting too. All of the demographics for all the social media platforms, and when I say all, that's not correct. I shouldn't have said that. The most popular, because there's gazillions of them. Um, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Those were the ones I was asking about. So when I actually looked up, gender, age group, what is it best for, mindset. Um, what I noticed is, like I mentioned earlier in the presentation, those things have all kind of morphed a little. And what they've done, I think, is overlapped a lot. So it used to be way more, I think, strict, like 18 to 34, 35 to 40, whatever. And I think what happens, what I've seen, and what this is telling me too, a lot of these platforms start as a younger audience kind of a thing until all the rest of us are like, hey, that's really cool. That's working for them. I want in on that. And then the demographics start to kind of skew older. So when I look at all of these, so many of them overlap. And so basically 18 to 65 plus is almost the demographic for almost all of these. Now, TikTok and Instagram doesn't seem to trend that old. However, it's growing older. So I think that that was kind of interesting. So I think gone are the days where you could say, um, if I'm posting to a 40-year-old, I have to be on this platform. And even for a while, Facebook is still so, so popular. And I know a lot of people don't like it. Some people hate it. Um, it's still popular. And for a while, it was kind of like, oh, all the young people are leaving Facebook. That's not necessarily true. I would just throw out there. Facebook is still kind of alive and kicking. So those are kind of the platforms. So if you're thinking about what you should post, and somebody posted, Joyce, on your when you said we were going to have this thing, someone posted a comment that said, I put my business stuff on LinkedIn and my personal stuff on Facebook. I think that's kind of a rule of thumb that we all
Mhm.
used to follow. But I'd like to push back on that just a little bit because I do believe that, think of it this way. I already said you don't want to try and reach everybody because if you're talking to everyone, you're talking to no one. However, I would like to say that I think if you are very, very rigid, like say LinkedIn, let's use LinkedIn for example. If you're very rigid of I put nothing personal on my LinkedIn account, I think you could be missing opportunities on LinkedIn for people who originally followed you for a business sense. And there are ways they could be getting to know you better. You could be building your know like trust factor and you're missing out. And I'm going to use you as an example, Joyce, just because I'm looking at your face and I'm thinking about you post a lot of things that are business related. However, You also post things like if it's Christmas time and you're wearing your Mrs. Santa Claus dress, you're going to post it. If it's your, anniversary, you don't overdo it, but I think you do post those things. And I would believe that that's actually helping people to get to know you and your values and make them want to consider number
I just like
one.
to pop in and say the picture of me wearing the Mrs. Santa dress and holding up the birthday cake that said 73 got more views, more impressions, more whatever, 20 some thousand than
Yeah.
any other single post I've ever made.
Okay, see
No,
there, so
yeah,
that tells you right there.
yeah,
Now, just gratuitously, posting anything, I don't know that
yeah.
that's good. But I do remember, and I have no idea who this person is, but I remember seeing this on LinkedIn like a couple of years ago. It was a woman who was an attorney, and she had a picture of herself, and she's wearing a nice suit, but she has her jacket off, and she has total tattooed sleeves on both of her arms. And her post was talking about how she liked working for the firm that she did because they didn't judge her. And it's like, she can put on a jacket when she needs to, but yet it wasn't something where her firm wouldn't hire her because she was not professional. So I distinctly remember that post and I thought, that's really cool that she posted that because it's it's kind of this mesh of personal and business. And I think that's the way the world is heading. 15 years ago, if somebody hired me to do a brand, one of my first questions was, are we branding you or are we branding a business? And now I think a lot of times it's almost a given that a personal brand can be a business. It doesn't have to be, but think of all the people you follow on social media. I would guess a large percentage of them have a personal brand and it is their business. People, we want to know, it's that story thing. We want to feel like there's some kind of, H to H, human to human connection going on. And sometimes it's difficult to prove that if you're only talking about the numbers. So, um, okay, just moving on. Sorry for the stories. So if it's strategic, it needs to tie to your business and then be consistent. And so I believe this might be, okay, our last two slides.
It's 2:15, Lori, so just,
Oh, okay.
about
All right.
maybe 5 more minutes of the presentation. Is that
Yeah,
okay? Can we
it'll
do
be
that?
done before then, so we
Okay,
should.
don't.
Okay, so what makes personal content work? Like we said before, we've kind of covered this, but just to kind of recap it, it reveals your values. And that I think is huge when people are paying their money to work with you, is they want to know what your values are. Um, it can build trust, it can build credibility, it can demonstrate your expertise indirectly in like a personal way. If you're talking about your gardening or your kids or something else, it could be showing traits that you possess that are also applicable to your business because obviously most of our talents and skills are not just used in one little narrow area, right? And it also creates emotional connection. And for me, that's enough reason right there. Um, if you want examples of how to do it, these are just some ideas I think that could be seen as personal, that go into business. So behind the scenes is a really popular thing because behind the scenes could be showing in a business sense, but yet you're really nervous or what went wrong. Some of those kind of things shows who you are. A day in the life obviously is going to include personal and business mixed together. Sharing motivational or inspirational quotes with context, because I was also trying to look up what are the things that people get annoyed seeing, and everyone's different, right? Like some people don't want to see all these stupid animal pictures anymore. Some people don't want to see your stupid kid pictures anymore. But if it's your thing and you feel strongly, post it because if you say, I don't want to work with someone who doesn't like cats and kids, you might want to know that. Maybe they're going to be not quite the person for you. So the context is important. Putting mistakes you've made and lessons learned, I think, is another great mix of personal and business. And then when we get to like vacation, family, hobbies, like I just mentioned, that's something you have to kind of judge for yourself. So here's the should I or shouldn't I? Pets and kids, there we go. And vacations. And we don't have time to talk about this. I just kind of consider privacy and security. There's a lot of big deals now about people, especially influencers, who are posting their kids and they're creating this digital footprint following these kids from the day they're born, and they're not asking their consent, and this kid might get to be a certain age and they don't want it, you know. So whenever you're posting other people, make sure you've got permission, and if it's the kid and you're the parent, try and consider their position. um, Vacations, food, posts that are complaining all the time, sometimes those can be funny, but that will become your brand quicker than anything. Or too positive and you're so sappy, like it might be good advice, but you know, sometimes you have those posts where it's like, oh, her life is just too good and she makes too much money and she always looks perfect. And those can be just as annoying as they can be encouraging, right? When people post, you know, if it's the 4th of July or Martin Luther King Day or any of those event days and people post happy whatever, there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm not saying that that's personal, business, whatever, but on those days, your feed is just jammed with that stuff. So if you want to post it, but add some comment or opinion to it. That's your own personal context that you could add to it. And I think, and as long as it's on brand for you, I think that that will land really good. And remember, there's a difference between personal and private. Those are can be two different things. So, we already talked about the platforms and kind of what they're for. I think you've got to figure out for yourself which one you're comfortable with. And then just the last few things, nail your brand story first, and then make your own list of rules, and then follow those rules with what you post and see how it lands. That's one thing I think we don't have to worry about in this day and age. If people don't like your stuff, they comment. If people like your stuff, they comment. So it's almost one of the easiest ways to test a message is to put it on social media, because everybody wants to jump to have an opinion. So also realize that it doesn't matter if nobody sees it. You've got to realize too, you know, 2 to 6% of what you post is being shown to your followers. And not to be, you know, negative Nelly, but if you're not doing paid traffic. So, you know, I did the math and it's like if we hit 4%, right, in between the 2 and the 6, you need to be having 2,500 followers in order for 100 people to see your post. So when you're always thinking like, oh, I have all these followers, that doesn't mean that they're seeing it. So take that as you will. And then the last thing is, just because you can doesn't mean you should. So I think sometimes that's just almost the best advice. So I'm going to stop my share. Sorry if that went a little bit long. But yeah, we have like a few minutes. I don't know if anyone's got any questions or opinions or answers, because this is a very, very personal thing that I think everyone's got to decide for themselves. So any thoughts you guys want to share?
I, oh, go ahead.
Ruth and then Mary?
Mary and then Ruth. Well, one of you two.
Oh, okay. I'm glad, Lori, that you said something about confidentiality. I do some dementia education and I worry greatly. In fact, when people post videos of their loved one, when they use people experiencing dementia for education, which can be very powerful, but only if the person is given consent. And I really find that when there's millions of followers and it's like it's crossed the line. So that happens to be near and dear to my heart, but I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. And also consider, you know, there used to be, I'm sure some people would still tell you that, you should always use real people and original photos and all that instead of stock photos. I think there are instances where it is better to use stock photography, and that would be a case right there. Because you can bet, well, probably can't bet, but you should be able to bet that when you're on the website of an assisted living place, that all those pictures you're seeing of the woman, you know, kneeled down by the older person in the wheelchair and stuff, those are stock photos. I guarantee you
Yeah.
they're not that they're residents, right? So I think that was a very well brought up point. And I think you because what does that say too? The more you post and people realize it's your real people you're posting, it could cause you to look insensitive,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
Because everyone,
we could have quite a conversation. I don't want to
yeah,
monopolize your time, but sometimes real pictures are important, but with permission and consent that can be given. And
right.
then I'll use real pictures. But
Right.
anyway,
Or where you don't, there's lots of ways, guys, to post pictures of real people without showing their face.
yeah,
Either
right.
either blocking it out or just from behind or somebody doing something or whatever. So yeah.
So, Mary Gall, do you want to? You had a
Yeah,
comment or
this
question?
was great, Lori. I love always hearing the 4 R's because I think we forget that we need to tell stories that are relevant and resonate with people. So I loved hearing that again. I liked also the reminder that not everybody sees everything that we post out there. So some people get concerned about, oh, I'm not getting any traction or anything, and they might post once a week or once a month or something. Well, if you're posting once a month and only 10 people are seeing it, that's why you're not getting traction, right? So
Mhm.
it's good to remember that we do need to have consistent posting. And whether I liked your breakdown of the kind of pick a formula that works for you, whether it's 70% is business and then 25% is personal and 5% is selling or whatever you need that to look for in your business. But that will help you build that consistent messaging that you're getting out there. So that was a good reminder for me as well.
Good.
Thank you, Mary.
Good.
I'd like to take it just a couple minutes. If Jay, if you can do like a 30-second intro, so because you came in a little late and Claire the same. Why don't you go first, Jay?
Oh, we did intros? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey everybody, I'm Jay from Total Speed Internet, and my company for 30 years has been offering essential business services like website hosting, email addresses through Microsoft 365, and domain registrations and transfers. But where my company differs is I believe in full support. We offer 24/7 phone support included, but beyond that, I do video support. In other words, if you go to booktotalspeed.com, you can set up an appointment with me. I have a lot of availability, and then we do a Zoom. And you can ask me your questions, you can share your screen. If you want to use a particular service, I can actually give you an orientation or a walkthrough, show you how to use it, and you'll be seeing it directly, and you'll be talking with the owner of the company, who happens to be a personal friend of Joyce.
Yes.
So we offer a lot, and we're based in Boulder, and so it's a
Yeah.
different relationship than what people have normally with their internet service providers. Um, and I also love helping companies promote, helping them be in touch with their customers. We offer services for that, and our prices are very inexpensive, so it's definitely worth a try. I'll pop my info in the chat.
Yeah,
And
please do
Joyce,
that. And
thank you for
Jay, I'll send the chat to everyone. You'll have the chat that has everyone else, the whole safe chat. Claire, do you want to pop in for half a minute or so, or show your video if you want, or just put something into the chat to introduce yourself? Otherwise, we'll go back to the Q&A. Why don't we just go back to the Q&A? Gee, always do that. Okay, other people with comments, questions? I do have an example. Some of you who have been following me on LinkedIn and on Facebook saw the series of posts I put up when I had a knee replacement surgery in January. I think one thing Rich said, and that's who you were referring to, is on LinkedIn, when there is a context or some way he can tie it into a business lesson or whatever term you want to use, he does use LinkedIn. I've seen him use it, but on Facebook, he gets like way too personal. I didn't know I even follow him on Facebook. But at any rate, so I would just say, here I am. I'm not a rule follower normally, but trust me, I am. And there'd be a picture of me with icing my leg, Michelle, with my leg up on this little, pillow thing. And oh my gosh, it was so popular. Even when I broke my wrist back in 21, people still ask me, how's your wrist? It was like 5 years ago. So yeah, I think if you weave it into some sort of lesson you're learning, observations you're making, I think there's certainly a place, like Gloria said, for personal.
Yeah.
Other people with examples or questions? Yeah, Jay, did you have something?
Oh, I didn't have an example, but
Okay, just I saw your hand go.
I wanted to make a suggestion to people. Um, if you want to make your LinkedIn site or your page more accessible and easier for people to get to, there's a little tip that I like to give people that people don't usually know about called subdomains. If you own a domain, I assume all of you do, whether or not you have a website, that's incidental. but you can set up a subdomain like LinkedIn dot whatever your domain is, and then people can go directly to your LinkedIn site. It only takes a second. It's free. If you want to know how to do it, I'll be happy to show you. My info's in the chat. If you want to go to my LinkedIn page, it's linkedin.totalspeed.com. So it's really easy to promote services that way because you don't have to remember
That's good.
complicated addresses. And it's
Thank you.
free. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Any
Cool.
other comments or questions?
I mostly just didn't want anyone to feel guilty or bad if they want to share something personal, because at the end of the day, your social media account is yours. You put whatever the heck you want to put on it. It's going to attract a certain kind of people. It might not be what you want, but you'll find that out because there's nobody really telling you, when we talk about what are for all of us that are older, it's like that you don't talk about money, religion, and sex, like those are the things you don't touch or whatever. I would say politics, obviously, in this day and age, but it's like if there's nobody to tell you you can't do it except for the comments that you're going to get. So be that as it may.
Summary. I want to take a minute or so right now here. I'll put it in the chat and I'll talk here just for a tiny bit. Next month, our speaker is Denise Klein, and she's got a talk called Stop Starting from Scratch. Build Your AI Content Vault, which I find really interesting. The whole idea of a vault. So yeah, July 14th speaker. And Denise is in the same, she's supporting Hearts Enterprise Leads Group, same chapter as Lori and I are in, and she's amazing presenter. So I'll just put that in. So that it depends what your notifications are for this meetup. So you may automatically see when, whatever the next month coming up is, speaks on. I'll just any other announcements or anything coming up that you want to share? Stop. Put this. Can do that. But yeah, this has been really made me think about a lot of things, and yeah, Lori, I'm really glad how you structured it and examples you gave. And here is this. Okay, now I can see. So you can see it there. If you want to grab that link or not, there she is. So yeah, I just think it's really, really excellent. I don't really go to Facebook that much personally. I know Marigold doesn't even use Facebook personally. So everybody kind of figures out where they kind of what works for them. But I really, if you wouldn't, hey, before you send me the slide deck, could you, where you have the platforms listed, Lori, would you put the little words or phrases? Like, I think there's one on that slide that were so interesting in terms of what people's expectations are.
Yes, I will do that for sure. And like I said, don't discount because it does matter what you like because you won't probably use a platform if you hate it. However, what really should be dictating is what platforms you use is where your people are. And every time I think nobody's on
Yes.
Facebook anymore and I go to Facebook and I'm like, dang it, these people are on Facebook. So take that as you will.
Okay, well, thanks everybody for coming. And like I say, I'll get the link to this will come as a YouTube video and yeah, the slide deck and chat, and have a great rest of your day, everybody. Hey, hang on a minute, Lori. I just wanted to chat. Yeah. Yeah. So I thought that just went so well.
Oh, good. I wasn't sure.
I thought it was good. I was trying to make sure you didn't get over time, but it worked out. There weren't as many questions or comments as I thought there would be. That kind of surprised me, actually. But there was a lot to take in too. So
yeah. And I think I mean at the end of the day, people ask the question and what they want is like some kind of rule, and there is no rule.
there is no,
That's the
especially
tricky
now.
part,
Like
right?
I thought your point, especially was well taken about back in the day. You did this here and that here, and this is for this age group or that age group, and it's so much more blended together. It's
It's almost like what do they call it? Like travel at your own risk, right? It's like if you want to, because sometimes, my personal opinions will get the best of me, but I make sure I'm like sharing things on Instagram that are like political or government or whatever, but I never put those on my business account just because, and not because I don't want to alienate people, because really I don't care about that so much. It's more that it's not aligned. It's just, it's not part of my brand at all, you know?
Right, right.
So anyway,
Well,
okay,
I thought
good.
this is really good and good just to have on kind of on record, so people could go back and look at it and feel free once that video's up, send that to people too.
I will, because I thought I
Just
didn't
thinking.
promote it as much as I thought I was going
Well,
to.
you were out of town. Where were you?
I wasn't out of town. I've just been dealing with stupid knee stuff.
Oh, your
My
knee.
husband's been out of town. He's on his way back as we speak from Boston. He's been gone 5 weeks.
What?
And he kept saying, "Well, I won't go if you need me." And then I thought, and and he needs to see his daughter and his people. So I'm like, "No, I'll be fine." And then I just kept getting worse and worse. And I finally got a little bit annoyed. I'm like, "Can you come home and help me?" Because like just trying to drag the hose around the yard and all that kind of stuff is kind of difficult. And before I started taking the Celebrex, when I was taking like the ibuprofen, it just was not helping with the pain, and it was just feeling like it was going to buckle all the time, and it just
Ooh, like
hurt
you would
so
fall or
bad.
something. Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, well, it's nice when other people say, "Oh, I did that. That's no big deal." Of course, it's always easier looking back, right? And saying, "Oh, it's no big deal." It's because you got over it. But I know it can be successful. I just have to stay off. The other day I was on YouTube, and because you put in one thing one time or follow one YouTube video and then that's all they feed you is that stuff. And then all of a sudden I'm watching this video of this orthopedic surgeon like doing a knee replacement. And it wasn't on a real person, but they had like, and it wasn't cadaver bones, it was like artificial bones, but still it was showing the bones and how they're sawing them off with a saw and they're pounding it in with a hammer. And then I thought, I don't need to see that.
Oh, that's too much information.
Exactly. That's
No.
why I put you to sleep, right?
There was only one point I went to ChatGPT where I rarely go for personal stuff, and I said, I just asked the difference between the partial and the full knee replacement. I was thinking like, oh, full knee, that's kind of like preventative. But then, when it came right down to it, everything kind of leaned, well, of course, you don't have an option there, but in the direction of the partial. Just
Yeah.
made sense. And that's what the doctor kind of recommended without pushing it. I thought he handled that very professionally. So
Yeah.
there is a period of time, it is painful, it's inconvenient. Still to this day, going up and down stairs is not easy.
Really?
I can go one step, like normally, boom, 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 but not always.
Hmm.
Sometimes what is it, bad leg up, good leg, I shouldn't say it like that. Good leg down. Yeah, you like a little kid. You just take
Hmm.
like two steps to make one stair, and then you go to the next one. So
Yeah.
it's giving yourself a lot of grace,
But
patience.
if you're to the point, but that the pain is causing you to do that anyway, then you might as
Yeah,
well have
we
the
may as well.
replacement, right?
Right.
Because that's
Like
what I
maybe
thought. It's
that's it.
like, yeah, I've been doing that thing with the step, like step up with my right foot, and then instead of going to the next step, I just go to that step, and then it takes. So everything feels like it takes forever, but that's the way it is.
Yeah. I wish you the
Our
best for that. So
our
thanks for
bodies
sending all the
do.
details about the guest meeting. I think hopefully I have time tomorrow, the next day. I'm going to
Okay.
put up a post on the website.
I do want, I was talking to Mary Weaston, we were talking about maybe once a quarter, we actually do something that's related to AI in a different way, because this one's not going to talk about using it for your content at all. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like, I know you use it. I know Brienne, I think, uses it. I think Kirby. So I'd like to do some more
Yeah. Mix it
where
up.
I touch on different things. You
That
can't
sounds
cover,
like a
that's
good
a
idea.
huge topic.
Enormous topic. Definitely. Yeah. Well, I feel good about today. Yeah. And
Oh,
um,
so let just think about September. I mean, like I said, if you don't have one, I don't think it's going to be horrible. But if you do have one, and there's no way I'm going to have surgery before that date anyway. So,
yeah.
um, you know what?
What's that?
Let me think about it. I don't
Mhm.
want to overpromise because now I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, because I'm signed up for November to do that
Right.
other one. I wonder if I could just get that one done and do it on
Why
September.
don't you do that in September
Because
or
that way,
even
because I was kind
August?
of thinking I might do my surgery in October, and so then
Yeah,
I,
let's do September. And I was thinking because August might be kind of soon, like too much of L'Oreal at once.
yeah, I could
Uh,
do,
the one on the batching, kind of that type of thing.
that
You
should be
do
a pretty
that.
easy thing,
Yeah,
and
and you
short,
you
and I
could
can make it a
present
lot
that.
shorter.
Yeah.
Okay, all right,
Okay, good. So I'll make a note.
okay,
I'll send out an email. We'll do that batching. All right.
okay.
Okay. Well, good.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Talk to you
Bye.
soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.